10 years ago, on the 3rd of August 2013, BeamNG became available to the public. But its story started earlier, way earlier. On August 11, 2005, Rigs of Rods got released. It was originally intended to be an off-road truck simulator, but has developed into a physics sandbox game. In 2011, some Rigs of Rods developers gathered together and decided to make a new soft-body vehicle sandbox, BeamNG Drive. BeamNG stands for Beam Next Generation, beams being an important part of the physics sandbox, and Next Generation just says that it's revolutionary. One year later, a demonstration trailer was published on YouTube, and it got almost 1 million views in less than 24 hours. This was our breakthrough, recalls Thomas Fischer, CEO of BeamNG, referring to a trailer that blew up overnight. At that time, they were still using CryEngine 3, but they switched to Torque 3D, an open source engine, because CryEngine 3 was too expensive to afford for the startup company. This was a huge step forward, because it allowed the developers to adjust the game engine to their likings and create the perfect physics engine for the needs of BeamNG. But can we still play these old pre-release versions? Well, the answer is complicated. Since these versions were only used by the devs before the initial release of BeamNG, there's no way to access them, right? Well, that isn't completely true. When the BeamNG forums first went live, the developer sections was mistakenly accessible to the public, including some threads that contained a build of 0.1, the first Torque 3D version. So let's take a look at it. We can choose from 3 different maps: Dry Dock Island, the grid map and the industrial site. Let's start with the grid map. As you can see, the physics are very wanky and the car is almost impossible to control. There's no UI that lets you choose other vehicles. If you want to do that, need to go into the world editor and change the JBeam name to any of the included vehicles. After pressing Ctrl R, we are finally able to drive the vehicle. Using this method, we can play with a total of 8 vehicles. Some of them are still in a very early stage of development, like the T-Series. Regarding its age, I have to admit that the graphics are quite impressive. Those threads did only contain 0.1, so neither the CryEngine 3 nor BeamNG version 0.2 were ever leaked. As already mentioned at the beginning, BeamNG Drive had its initial release on the 3rd of August 2013. Not only a free tech demo was released back then, but also a paid alpha version, which included more content, like the cliff, derby areas and a small island map. It was available for around $15 on Forspring. Compared to the leaked developer build, the cars were refined and tons of bugs were fixed. Late in 2013, they also teased various vehicles in the East Coast USA map, which made speculation go crazy. 1 month after the release, they sadly removed the VR support due to the bugs it led to. I think all players would agree that we would love to get it back. They included a lot of details though, like the engine kill on the water. 2014 was a year with rather little content. We got the Bijou Pigeon and 2 new maps, East Coast USA and the Hiroshi Raceway, which makes sense since these maps share a lot of assets. 2015 was probably the most important year in the history of BeamNG. 9 new vehicles were officially added, those being the Hiroshi Sunburst, the Q100BX, the Gravel Roamer, the T-Series, both the Bijou Pessimas, the Hiroshi SPR4, the Gravel Barstow and also the Burnside Special. On May 29, BeamNG Drive was released on Steam, which made it accessible to a wider audience. That version included Jungle Rock Island, the successor to Dry Dock Island. A huge change was the implementation of scenarios though. They added a whole new dimension of fun into the game. Before them, the only thing you could do was messing around in free roam. At the very end of this year, they introduced a remote control app for mobile devices, which allowed you to use your mobile phone as a controller. Yet another 5 vehicles got included in 2016. the ETK 800 series, the K series and also the I series. From other brands we have the Bishu Miramar and also the Broccoli Car. Alongside these vehicles, the Utah map got published too. This year also introduced a whole new game mode, the campaigns. These are actually a test for the career mode. In 2017, West Coast USA was released, a densely habituated map with a San Francisco-inspired city called Velasco City. The only vehicle released in this year was the Bishu Hopper. The in-game mod repository was implemented though. 2018 started with the publication of the Vendor DT40L, an American bus. Only 1 year after the release of the West Coast map, an even larger one was introduced, the Italy map. That update included a small Italian hatchback called Autobello Piccolina 2. This year had even more exciting news though. The first ever collaboration was announced in 2018, BeamNG and Automation. This introduced a new map called Automation Test Map, and most importantly, it made it possible to easily export your automation creations to BeamNG. 2019 was yet another busy year for BeamNG. 4 maps got remastered: East Coast USA, Hiroshi Raceway, the Derby areas, and also Utah. The SPR4 got electric configurations, making it the first ever electric vehicle in the game. The Gravel Grand Marshal and the D-Series got a refresh, and the Gravel Blueback got released after being 6 years in development. In the next year, 2020, there were many remasters too. Jungle Rock Island, the industrial site and the small island were updated. In terms of vehicles, we got a whole new car, the Chery Vivas. On the 22nd of June 2021, BeamNG received one, if not the most important update in terms of graphics, PBR materials, also known as physics-based rendering material. They turned the game from this to this. Other than that, 3 new cars got added: the Zodiac Wendover, the Bishu Vision, and the Brockle Bastion. In this year, the Civetta Bolide got a remake from the ground up too. "2022 was one of the years with the most content added. In June, version 0.25 was published, including the Civetta Scintilla and also the return of the garage mode. Only a few months later, 0.26 was released, which seemed like a smaller update, but if you click 6 times on the career mode icon in the main menu, you would get into a hidden work-in-progress career mode. Three months later, 0.27 came out, the by far biggest BeamNG update ever. It was heavily off-road based. It added a new map called Johnson Valley, which is heavily inspired by the real Johnson Valley, 4 new vehicles, and a lot of new scenarios. Due to the immense size of 0.27, 0.28 was a rather small update. It remastered the Automation Test Map and refreshed the ETK K series as well as the 800 series. Another change was the ability to open doors, hoods and trunks on almost all vehicles. The next update, 0.29, included the Zodiac Lansdale, BeamNG's first ever minivan. But the very interesting part of 0.29 was the Gambler 500 collaboration. This is the first ever collaboration with a real-life company or well event. It could be the start of something huge. But what's next? At the end of the patch notes for 0.29, the devs mentioned that the next update will contain several major improvements and new features. In my opinion, BeamNG misses tire thermals and wear, better aerodynamics, scratches and paint damage, and also dynamic weather. I really hope to see these features in future updates. Regarding the small size of the last two updates, I'm convinced that 0.30 is going to be a big update, maybe even including some of the mentioned wishes or even career mode. I highly doubt that though. It's more likely that it's going to be a utility update, but you can learn more about that in the video linked above and in the description. But will BeamNG ever quit early access? I don't think BeamNG will exit the early access state anytime soon. I think the devs will fully release it as soon as physics are as good as they can get it, and the career mode is going to be functional. A full release would most likely mean the end of development. I'm sure the devs will make the right decisions though. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it and see you next time.